to today's biology class. We're looking at taxonomy. Well, in my first time in the library during my year one, I went into the library to look for a maths textbook at that time, though we're doing biology. And then I was looking for this maths textbook, although I have my library card, which gave me access into the library. And then I just walked into the library, I was looking for this textbook, and I couldn't find this maths textbook. I went back to the library attendant and said, "Ma'am, I'm looking for this maths textbook." And she said, "Have you checked the catalog, the library catalog?" I said, "No, ma'am." And she brought the catalog, showed me the textbook, and then she gave me the book score number. And with the book score number, I was able to locate the book easily in the library. Now, we're looking at taxonomy, and we're trying to relate what happened to me at that time with taxonomy. Taxonomy gives organisms or species identification, gives them classification, and gives them the name to which the species or organisms belong to. So when you ask what is taxonomy, number one, in a nutshell, taxonomy is the identification. Number two, classification. And number three is naming, known as nomenclature. Or sometimes we say binomial system of nomenclature. Now, nomenclature is just the same thing. And then as you look at this taxonomy, we want to know that taxonomy helps us to classify living organisms on Earth into different species and different hierarchy of life. Now, what is the hierarchy of life? We want to know what the hierarchy of life is. Well, we have different special acronym for this. I have there, which actually is the domain, kingdom, divide or division, or phyla, that's for animal, this for plants, class, order, family, genus, species. So if you ask, this is kingdom, divide, kingdom there, which is domain, which is the first one, actually, domain, kingdom, divide, class, order, family, gain, space. You don't understand it, just say kingdom, divide, class, order, family, gain, space. I take it again. Kingdom, divide, class, order, family, gain, space. I take it again. Kingdom, divide, class, order, family, gain, space. You change the gain to genus, you change the space to species. Remember to put there. So it is there, kingdom, divide, class, order, family, gain, space. With this hierarchy of life, you can group or you can classify organisms of any kind. Now, let's look at classification between man and a lion, for instance. Let's classify man and a lion, for instance. Let's say we have the man and a lion. So remember, we're going to start with domain. Their domain, then kingdom, then instead of using division, you use phyla because we're talking about animal. Kingdom, divide, class, order, family, genus, and then species. Alright, now we are talking about two living organisms. So we're going to find this domain of man. We have man, we have lion. Now, meanwhile, before we start putting the items in the board, we need to know that man and animal, man and lion belongs to the eukaryotic kingdom, the eukaryotic domain, or the eukaryotic superkingdom. Now, we are going to write here the eukaryota. Okay? Eukaryota. Over here also, eukaryota. Alright? So the kingdom of man and a lion is animalia. And then over there is two animalia. And then for the phyla, it is Chordata. For the phyla there is also Chordata. And then for the class is Mammalia. For the class over there is also Mammalia. Over here, the order of man is Homonedia. Oh, sorry, is Primate. Over there is Carnivora. You see, when we go to the order, there is separateness between them. This one is a primate, while this guy is a carnivore animal, which means it feeds on flesh. And then we have the family, the Homonedia, and then we have the Felidia, and then we have the genus Homo, and then we have the genus Pentra, and then we have Sapiens, and then we have you. You see? So this is how to classify man and animal. What taxonomy does for you is that it classifies these organisms from their hierarchy of domain to the species level. Now, every living thing on earth belongs to either of the four hierarchy of life I'm going to name for you in this class. Meanwhile, when you come to the kingdom, it is less inclusive because the kingdom, although not all the scientists agree with the 5 major kingdoms, which I'm going to teach you at the course of this class, but it's still going to contain some similarities between organisms. And meanwhile, when you get to the class, you notice that there's this similarity between lion and mammal. But when you get to the other, you notice that the similarity between man and lion is different because this is a carnivore and this is a mammal. So what taxonomy does for you is that it separates, it gives you different classification in details, in identification, in classification, and in naming of all organisms. So we want to know that the scientific name of an organism is written in the genus and the species form. The scientific name of organism is written in their genus and their species. Now, if the genus starts with a capital letter, let's use the one, and it should be written in italics, and then species, the sapiens. Also in italics, or when you write Homo sapiens, but notice a small letter, you underline. And then you write it like this, or you write it like this, you're still correct. So what we are saying is that the species name gives the similarities between these organisms. When an organism have the same species, or when the organism have the same species, that means that that organism has the ability to interbreed or relate with one another. So we're going to the domain. We have 4 major domains. I'm going to show you the domain now. Oh, we have space. We have 4 major domains. We have the eukaryote. We have the prokaryote. We have the archaea. Then we have the virus. Now, majorly, most of the textbooks will tell you that we have these 3 domains. Eukaryote, prokaryote, and archaea. Why I'm including virus here is because virus is not classified in any of this. Virus is not classified in any of these domains. Virus is classified in local. Meanwhile, we're not disputing, we just have 3 domains. Virus has to put there, although it is an acellular, that means that no cell, it behaves like a living thing. If it's on a living cell, it behaves like a non-living thing if it's on a non-living cell. So it's on a non-living thing. So that's what we're talking about. That's why I just put virus there. Not that it actually belongs to the domain. You get that? So the 3 major domains we have is the eukaryote, the prokaryote, and the archaea. So we move to another thing. So what we have next under taxonomy is the kingdoms. Okay, the kingdoms of life. So the kingdoms that we have was first done, the classification of kingdom was first done in the 19th century by Carl Linnaeus. So in the 18th century by Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus, he was the one that actually divided living things into plants and animals. Okay? Why he classified living thing into plant and animal during his time is that there was no much study of the DNA structure, of the cell structure, and all the evolutionary trait of these living organisms. That's why the classification is limited to just plant and animal. But in 1969, that is 1969, Robert Whittaker. Okay? Robert Whittaker was the first person to classify living things into 5 major kingdoms. And this kingdom is what we are going to look at now. The kingdoms are, please stay with me. The kingdoms are the kingdom Monera, okay, the kingdom Protista, the kingdom Fungi, the kingdom Plantae, the kingdom Animalia. Alright, so this is the kingdoms that we have. Meanwhile, there is disputes between scientists and saying that this Monera, sometimes we call it the eubacteria, and then the archaea. Okay, now the other kingdoms still remain. Now, the kingdom, this is 5 kingdoms, and this is inclusively 6 kingdoms. Now, what we know is that majorly the Protista, fungi, plants, and animals are all eukaryotic. But at the Monera, some of them are eubacteria and some of them are the archaea. Now that's why the Monera is divided into the eubacteria or the Schistophyta and the cyanobacteria. So this is where the problem is. But meanwhile, let's continue the classification. Now, we know, well, I hope this is 1969, right? So, the date, but Robert Whittaker was the one that classified these organisms into 5 basic kingdoms. I hope the date is correct. But meanwhile, you can check it out after the class. No, now let's continue. We know that if we're going to classify these, we're going to take the Monera first. Then the Monera, they are divided into eubacteria, or the Schistophyta, and then the cyanophyta. This is also known as cyanobacteria, the notox, and the rest of them. Now, this is what the Monera is all about. The Moneras are prokaryotic in nature. They are prokaryotes, meaning that they are prokaryotic in nature. What do you mean by an organism to be prokaryotic and an organism to be eukaryotic? Before we continue the class, let me demarcate the 2 of them for you. When an organism is prokaryotic, it means that that organism lacks true nucleus. When an organism is prokaryotic, it means that organism has no double-bounded membranous organelle. So, when an organism is eukaryotic, it means that organism has true nucleus. And when it's eukaryotic, it has double-bounded membranous organelle. Let me take it again. Let me say it again. When an organism is prokaryotic, it means it has no nucleus. It has no true nucleus. And it has no double-bounded membranous organelle. But when an organism is eukaryotic, it means it has nucleus and it has a double-bounded membranous organelle. So, having know these differences, we move to the next thing. So, the next thing we're going to do or classify is the Protista. So, looking at the Protista, we know that the Protista is extremely diverse in nature. The Protista is extremely diverse in nature, which brings many scientists to begin to dispute whether an organism should either belong to that kingdom or not. Meanwhile, the Protistas, some of them are unicellular, some are multicellular. The Protistas, some behave like animals, some behave like plants, and some have cell walls, some doesn't have cell walls. So that's the difference. There's a large string differences between the phylums or subphylums of the Protista. Meanwhile, we're going to pick just 2 phylums phylums of the Protista. We have other phylums, but let's pick these two phylums for an example. We have the phyla Protein. Under the Protista, we have the protozoans. So the protozoans is either the amoeba, the trypanosome, the plasmodium, and then the paramecium. Alright, so this is the protozoan, and then we have the euglynophyta. Of course, the euglynophyta is known as Euglena viridis. Alright, so this is what we have here, Euglena viridis. Having said that, we need to know that this protozoan, I want to talk about this protozoan a little, because the protozoan has amoeba, trypanosome, plasmodium, and then it has paramecium. I want to talk about it a little, because the protozoan is subdivided into subphylums, and I want just to see the subphylums to know what is there. So the subphylum protozoan, let's take up the board. The protozoan is divided into the Sarcodina, or Rhizopoda. Okay? Rhizopoda. Alright? We have the Mastigophorus, or the Flagellates. We have the Celiophora, or the ciliates. And then we have the Sparosmos. Alright? So this is what we have. Now, under these Sarcodinas, that place we're going to find the amoeba. Now, different species of amoeba. We have amoeba coli, which causes constipation and other diseases. And it can also cause heart failure or heart complication. That's amoeba coli. Now, we also have amoeba histolytica, which causes amoebic dysentery, and the rest. So, under the protozoan, this amoeba is actually found under the Sarcodinas. They are found under the Sarcodina or Rhizopodas. So that's where we find them. Then we have the Mastigophorus or the Flagellates. The flagellate, the organism or the species that use flagellate is the Trypanosome. And then when you talk about the organism that's the Celiophorus or the ciliate, that we're talking about the paramecium. And then we're talking about the Sparosome, which is parasitic Sparosomes. They are the Plasmodium, and we have different Plasmodium species. Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malaria, and Plasmodium ovale. So depending on the Plasmodium, but the most common cause of malaria is Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, let's move to the next thing. Then I was talking about this protozoan, and I've discussed the protozoan under the Protista. So the next thing to talk about is the fungi. So we're going to the kingdom fungi. The kingdom fungi. So fungi. Now, fungi, they are not plants. Some of them are multicellular, some of them are unicellular. And then these fungi, they are subdivided into the Eumycota, and then the imperfect fungi, or fungi imperfectae, or fungi imperfectae, whatever, it's imperfect fungi. Alright, so over here we have the Ascomycota, we have the Basidiomycota, and then we have the Zygomycota. Alright, so this is not just all we have under these phyla, whether it is the Ascomycota, Basidiomycota, or Zygomycota. Now, under here, which is the imperfect fungi, we have the one of them is the Myzomycota, and then the Plasmodiophloromycota. So now, but this is not all we have there. There are still a lot of them, but I just want to, because of explanation, just to give you some preview of what we have there. This is what we're talking about in the fungi. Now, we move to the next thing, which is the kingdom Plantae. Under the kingdom Plantae, we have the pedophytes, or the pedophyta. We have the biophyta, and then we have the tracheophyta. Okay? Now, the pterophytes, they are divided into the green algae. Now, you're talking about the pterophytes, they are the red algae, the green algae, and the brown algae. The green algae, or alga, first for singular, the green algae or alga is called the chlorophyta, while the red algae or red alga is called the chlorophyta. And then we have the brown alga or algae is called the phycophyta. Alright, now for the biophytes are the liverworts and then the mosaics. The liverworts and then the mosaics. So that's what we have here. But under the tracheophytes, they are vascular plants. They are vascular plants. So we need more classification over there under the tracheophytes. So let's go to the tracheophytes. They are vascular plants, and then there's a bit of more classification over there. So tracheophyta. Tracheophyta is divided into the pteridophyta, and then there's amatophyta. Now, the pteridophytes, they don't bear seed. They are non-flowering plants, I'm going to say. While the amatophytes are kind of flowering plants. And then we have the gymnosperm, and then we have the angiosperm. Well, the angiosperm is divided into the monocots and then the dicots. The monocotyledon or the dicotyledon. So, having said that, we have seen how, if you have a monocot, if you have a dicot, for instance, the beans seed or beans seed, yeah, you can see the way the classification comes from to the angiosperm, to the spermatophyta, to the tracheophyta, and then to the plant kingdom. So that's what taxonomy is all about. It's trying to show you the different hierarchies or the different arrangements, classification, identification, or how you can identify or how you can classify these species. Now, we're looking at the last one, which is the Animalia. The Animalia is divided into the invertebrate and then the vertebrate. The invertebrates and then the vertebrates. The invertebrates are the porifera, the coleopterata, the platyhelminths, the nematoda, the mollusca, the arthropoda. We have so many invertebrates anyway, but I'm going to give you 9 because we're going to give you 9 at the scheme or the scope of this teaching. So we have porifera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have the nematoda, porifera, lepidoptera, platypus, nematodas, mollusca, arthropodas, and chilodermata. looking for a space, so let me just make it here. Right. Ectodermata. And then I have the annelida. And then I have the prochodata. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 9 now. Prochodata, why we call it prochodata is it is a primitive chodata because chodata are animals that have backbone. But this one is talking about the primitive chodata, the prochodata. So we're talking about the next one is the vertebrate. We have the pisces, which is also known as the fishes. We have the apes, which is also called the birds. We have the reptilia. We have the amphibian. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have the mammalia. So this is all we got in the Animalia kingdom. Then we want to go to look at the archaea a little. The archaea, they have been taken to be called the prokaryotes for a long time, until there was a discovery that there's a difference between the cell wall, the DNA structure of the archaea and the prokaryota. And then because of that differences, the archaea domain was carved out from the prokaryota. So the archaea are also seen as extremophiles. They are known as extremophiles. Now, why do they call them extremophiles? They are known as the extremophiles. Now, extremophiles, it means that they stay in extreme conditions. Like we have the ones that are the thermophiles. Thermophiles. They have the ability to grow in hot or high temperature. They have the ability to grow in high temperature. There are the saprophiles. They have the ability to grow in cold or freezing temperature. Let's say the temperature near to freezing point. Okay, so you can see that there are some organisms, actually archaea, that can grow or they can survive in regions that are cold, like in their temperature. Then we have the mesophiles. They dwell in intermediate environments. They dwell in intermediate environment. So this is what we've got for you in this video. Now don't forget what I told you, Robert Whittaker in 1669, you got to check the date, is it 1669 or not? So that's an assignment for you. Go and check the date which Robert Whittaker lists out the 5 kingdoms. Is it in 1669 or not? So you have to go and check that. So we, in summary, all we got to say is that taxonomy helps you to 1, to identify, 2, to classify, 3, to name living organisms. Surprisingly, there are about 8.7 billion lives on Earth, and just about 1.7 million has been grouped and have been classified. So it means there's a lot of work to do. And as the cell structure, the DNA evolutionary structures, more about it is being discovered, there is a shift in, there is an addiction of having or maybe finding things to add to taxonomy. So what we're trying to say is that this is not all, because as time changes, taxonomy will change. As time changes, different discoveries coming out, taxonomy will be expanding, and there will be an addition or editing of some of these classifications. So we have come to the end of the class. First of all, remember that taxonomy is basically the naming, the identification, and classification of living organisms. And then we know that we have the 3 domains, the prokaryota, the eukaryota, and the archaea. And then we begin to divide the species or the kingdoms that are belonging to them. So this is all we've got for you. See you in our next class.